did you shoot the first wedding?
Very good friend was getting married in Delhi, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll take some pictures. I've got my new camera.
What happened to your 35 1.4?
So I was changing the lens on my camera, and it slipped out of my hand and fell into like this container of ghee. That split second, I was like, my God, the lens is finished. Like, that's the end of the lens.
He mentioned that he does not use any lens caps at all.
Always been without lens caps, and they're all fine. They work. I mean, you can see, if you look at it closely, you can see some scratch. The look of my pictures, I've tweaked it a little bit just to my personal taste.
Hello, everyone. Today we're at the Sigma Gallery, and I'm Praneeth Reddy. And I have with me a very talented individual. I have Vinay Aravind with me. Most of you may know him as a photographer. Some of you may know him as a journalist, but he's a brilliant, multidextrous person. There's a bunch of things that he does. And I also want to show off some things that I want to talk about, some things that he's done. He shot over 380 weddings in 8 countries. So, Vinay, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time and giving us your time.
My pleasure.
So how do you keep track of these weddings? Do you actually, each time you finish a wedding, do you put 380, 381, 382? Do you do that?
Actually, for a long time, I had no idea what the number was. And then I thought, okay, really, I think maybe a year ago, I was like, okay, I really need to know I need to have some idea how many I've shot. So then I went through my list, like my schedule I put on these Excel sheets. So then I sat and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, so it's that many. So yeah.
So when was your first wedding shoot? When did you shoot the first wedding?
At February of 2011. Basically, I used to be a corporate lawyer earlier. I stopped doing that. And then I was trying my hand at a bunch of things. And among the things I was trying out was I'd bought a DSLR, basic Canon 1000D or something like that. And my very good friend was getting married in Delhi. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go take some pictures. I've got my new camera. And I shot the wedding as not like I knew what I was doing or anything, but I just went and took some pictures. And some of those pictures turned out to be pretty okay. So based on that, a couple of months later, somebody actually hired me to shoot their sister's wedding.
Well, so your very second wedding itself, it was a paid gig.
Yeah, because just random, like somebody who knew somebody who saw those pictures said, okay, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Wow.
So,
and one more thing I want to point out is from wedding 1 till wedding 380, whatever the number is now, he's always been a one-man show. He does not have a team. He is always running and gunning just by himself. I don't know how you managed to do that, but that's crazy inspirational right there.
Yeah, it's basically, I like doing it like that. It's what's comfortable for me. I like the simplicity of it. So that's the main motivation. I don't have to be responsible for other people's work. I don't have to be responsible for them turning up on time, doing things correctly. If there's a mistake, it's my mistake. It's not, I don't have to be accountable for other people's mistake, which is
being fully responsible. Like that's one thing for me personally, when I'm working with a team, there's a small part of relinquishing control. And I'm not fond of it, but I'm slowly learning to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm a control freak, and that's the main reason that I shoot alone. And the thing is, early days, 2011, 2012, when I started out, this candid wedding photography was a very new thing. Like there was a handful of people doing it, but very few. And even the people who were doing it back then, they were all solo photographers. Everybody was solo. Like
true. I think back then, as you said, 2011, 2012, I think at least till 2014, 15, a lot of them were still running solo.
And back then, the people who were already shooting then, Rakesh, Prakash, Varun, Suresh, all these guys, they were all shooting solo back then.
So you told me you started off with a Canon 1000D.
Yeah.
What was your next progression?
So, I used the 1000D for a good I think not couple of years, year and a half. I think or at least a year. I used the 1000D, and then around
And
that
what lens did you have? Did you have the
I had the
1855 or
kit lens and a 50
okay, 50-1.8?
1.8, the nifty 50. The 1000D was a really rudimentary camera in that
It was
I paid 21,000 rupees for it back then, and for that money, it delivered tremendous value.
definitely for 21,000 today. I don't even think you can get a
Yeah,
basic
no,
lens.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I shouldn't complain, but the other thing is the for better or worse, the 1000D shaped the way I shoot. So even with my
Definitely for
far
better.
more advanced camera now, I shoot like I'm shooting with 1000D, which is that I shoot multiple frames for insurance.
Wow.
Like it's like I shoot more than necessary.
You said the right word. It's insurance.
I've always shot fully manual, no aperture priority, etc., etc. So now I'm starting to use aperture priority a little bit in some scenes.
The cameras of today, they truly spoil you. A couple of months ago, I had the chance of holding a 1000D again. And the first thing I noticed was the screen was really tiny.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was thinking, like back when I was using the 1000D, it didn't feel so bad. But now that I use it, it just felt like a toy. But you're right, it gets the job done. And I think it offered tremendous value back when it was first launched.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it plays so many constraints. You really learn to work with,
That's the thing. Those cameras, I feel, they force you to get your basics right.
Absolutely.
So there's not too much leeway that they offer.
Yeah, and there's nowhere to hide with those cameras. You've really got to be.
You either get the shot, you nail the shot
absolutely
perfectly,
on top of
or
it.
you don't.
Yeah.
And what next? So which camera came after the 1000D?
After 1000D, I moved to the 550D, which was mostly I wanted a little more low light performance, better autofocus.
And video, 1080p video. It had full HD video back then.
Fully. I mean, I didn't do, and I still don't do any video work, but those are all nice. Those are all nice features to have, and I was like, okay, that was pretty exciting. But it was a very brief stint with that camera because very soon I saw a Facebook ad for an old 5D Mark II, a second-hand 5D Mark II, which had gone on sale for $75,000.
Okay.
Amar Ramesh was selling his old 5D Mark II. And I was like, okay, $75,000, I can afford this. So I bought the 5D Mark II. And that was a huge game changer.
It was definitely a game changer.
That 550 crop sensor to the full frame was just like, it felt amazing.
And I think 21 megapixels.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, probably.
But also, you remember 550D, so that was 18. I think 18 to 20 megapixels.
Yeah, 550D was 18 and it just looked so.
And it feels good in the hand. It just felt good in the hand.
It just felt
good and chunky.
And because it was a sort of chunkier body, you felt your shots were more stable. You felt like everything just looked better.
Definitely. And what's in your bag today?
I have a 5D Mark IV. And then 5D Mark IV, I bought it as soon as it came out in September of 2016.
I still think, for me, the 5D Mark IV is still like, it's a personal favorite. I would like to call it the last of the greats. What last do you have right now?
So I shoot primes.
Okay.
I mainly shoot primes. I have a Sigma 35mm 1.4 art lens.
It's a lovely piece of kit.
Great glass. I've had that for 10. I bought that soon after it came out. I think 10, 11 years I've had that. I have a Canon 50mm 1.4 and the Canon 85mm 1.8. These are my three lenses that I use 99% of the time. I also have an ultra wide 1740 f4, which I bought recently secondhand to replace an old ultra wide that broke. And I couldn't get it fixed at all.
Oh no.
So yeah, these are basically the lenses that I use.
But the 35, as you mentioned, is a lovely lens. When Sigma came out with the art series of lenses, the first lens I got to try was the 50-1.4.
Right.
And it was just exceptional. And I think it offered the kind of value that nothing else on the market at that point of time gave.
Absolutely.
And most reviewers back then, they would never compare it to the 1.4 of the other brands. They straight up were like, okay, cool, this lens is great. Bring the Zeiss Otis. Zeiss Otis at that point of time was considered to be the hallmark of quality and no autofocus. And this is a little bit of a guilty admission, but after using DSLRs, I think I went completely blind. I just cannot manually focus on a DSLR anymore. It's just so difficult. I've tried multiple times, but it's very tricky. So getting the 50mm 1.4 with autofocus and exceptional quality was great. And to this day, I still use that lens,
Wow.
the 50
Yeah.
1.4.
In terms of performance, my Sigma 35 is the best lens in the bag. But I tend to use my 50 a little more often because it's light, it's small, and I mean, it's not something that
It was a very chunky lens. So
yeah, it is a chunky lens.
And especially because it's a DSLR design.
Yeah.
The Sigma 35 1.4 art, which you get nowadays for the mirrorless bodies, much lighter, much smaller.
Yeah, I know, and I'm basically I'm waiting to
And
move
the
to mirrorless.
autofocus also, because it's a mirrorless body that you're using it on, the autofocus, the older one was great too, but this new one nails it every single time.
Is it? Okay,
It's
I'm
great.
excited to try it out. I'm hoping this year is the year I finally move to
Make the shift to
mirrorless.
mirrorless.
Yeah, I want to move to mirrorless.
Sad.
I'm perfectly happy with my Mark IV. Like, if you ask me if do you have any complaints with it? No, not really. I think now I've been using it for so many years, and I've changed the shutter and mirror. It reached, I think, a 3.8 lakh shutter.
Oh, wow.
And
That's seen a lot of
yeah, at that point when I had given it for some service, the Canon guys were like, "Listen, this is a very high shutter count."
I don't think I've seen, but okay, wedding cameras are a little different from other cameras, I would say. They've
sheer
seen a lot of mileage.
Yeah, so they were like, "It's working."
Okay.
But at this point, it's probably safer to replace shutter and mirror because
So when you go into a wedding, do you have one body or do you have a spare body on you?
my old 60 is in the back.
Okay.
And only once I've had to use it, and there was an issue. I think it's probably some dust or something.
Okay.
My Mark IV wouldn't work, wasn't reading the cards that I was putting in. I was doing a portrait shoot, thankfully, not a wedding.
Thank God.
So then I took the 60 and I used it, and it was okay. And then, I mean, I just picked it up and blew into it, and after that, it was fine. It never gave me any
started
issue
working
after
again.
that. So,
Well, that's
yeah.
good. I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
The problem come, problem go, all by itself.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I also want to touch upon this. I know you've told this to me, but I also want our listeners or viewers to know about this. What happened to your 35 1.4?
So I was just last week I was shooting a wedding in Alibag, which is near Bombay, and I was changing the lens on my camera, and it slipped out of my hand and fell into like this container of ghee. Like the entire lens, fell into the ghee. It was fully submerged, and like for that split second, I was like, "My God, the lens is finished." Like, I mean, that's the end of the lens.
So at that point of time, the first thought which should come is, served its purpose, buy new lens.
No, the thing is that I knew that if I had to replace it, it was a big chunk of money that was going to go. So that was the panic. I was like, my God, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money to replace it. Of course, I immediately fished it out. And I was like, I mean, I was sure that I was definitely not going to shoot with it, at least until I take it to the service center. But whatever it is, I sat down with one pack of tissues and I just wiped it. For 10 minutes, I wiped the whole thing, tissue after tissue after tissue. 10 minutes, I wiped the front, the back, and it was still greasy. I kept wiping. And then after about 10 minutes of wiping, I was like, let's see how it is. I put it on the camera and shot with it, and it's fine. It looked sharp. Everything AF working, everything
That's
electronics
testament
working.
to build quality.
Yeah.
That's testament to build quality.
Yeah,
because
that's
I feel,
truly testament to build quality.
and your wiping skills, of course.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's crazy. And I'm like, and anyway, it's a 10-year-old lens. And I was saying, whatever coatings are there would have already gone like over the 10 years of, especially,
the
I was telling you, I used my lenses without lens caps.
Oh,
And
yes. That's another thing he told me, which gave me a small panic attack. He mentioned that he does not use any lens caps at all. And I don't know how he's doing it. And he's been this way for a while, he tells me.
Yeah, all my lenses are over 10 years old. All of them have always been without lens caps. And they're all fine. They work. I mean, you can see, if you look at it closely, you can see some scratches and stuff like that.
I think
A lot of
it's just
scratches.
war paint at this time. It's just like,
But
Pedals
the
of
thing
war.
is, see, my logic is that small scratches don't make a difference to the image at all.
you're right, though. So the way I see it, it's two things. One, you can, as you said, sit and make the image or start nitpicking, saying, oh, this is not right, that's not right. And then who are you fooling? I think it's only affecting yourself and your ability to tell a story.
No, and see the simple physics of it. And I shoot mostly wide open. I shoot f2 most of the
Okay.
time. This lens rentals guy. What's his name? Roger Sikala.
Okay.
They had a 7200 lens that had gone out for rental, and it came back with a fly inside. Like there was somehow or the other this housefly got inside and died inside the lens. When you picked it up, you could see the housefly in the lens.
No way.
So
But
then
the
they were like,
lens-
we want to test what it's like to shoot that lens with the housefly inside the lens. And they shot it up to f8. You couldn't see anything.
Wow.
It shot perfectly. Like you look through the lens, you can see the housefly, but you're shooting with the lens, the image is
Wow.
perfect. At f8, you start to see a shadow. And then by I think f16 or something, it's a proper sort of
proper up, then you
blotch
can see.
there. So the basic thing is when you're shooting wide open, the small things, on the elements or inside the lens don't make a difference. I mean, that's my logic. Optically, it doesn't make a difference. And I shoot f2 most of the time. I might go to f2.8, f4, etc., but hardly ever even approach f8.
Wow.
So
So it's completely fine if you have a fly in your lens.
it's completely fine to have fly in my lens.
Till
It's
F8.
completely fine to have a few scratches here and there. Performance is great. My Sigma 35, not just the scratches, some ghee, some wiping, all of that. And
You mentioned that it's been 10 years and probably all the coatings are gone, but I have a feeling the ghee just replenished all your coatings.
I know, now it's giving it a fresh new look.
A fresh coat.
See, I'm sure nobody at Sigma has tested the lens for how it performs after falling into ghee. So
I
this is
don't
like a
think
world's
anyone
first
will
experiment.
want to test it. Also, the fact that after you clean it up, you still decided like, maybe what can happen if I mount it on the body?
Yeah, I was
The
like,
fact that you did that
now I want to see. I spent so much time cleaning it. Like, I want to see, like, what is the situation?
Wow,
And I
that's just great.
I shot and that was just before a wedding, and I used the 35 during that wedding. I shoot the 35. I used the 35 yesterday. The
Wow.
wedding I was shooting.
Wow.
This evening I'm going to be shooting an event. I'm going to be using that 35.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
So kudos to that. Like, I hope this 35 lasts you much, much longer.
Yeah, that's what man. I hope so as well. Yeah.
Now, another thing I want to ask you is, what do you think about photography trends? Like, especially since you've been shooting for a really long while, you've seen it all. You've seen literally candid photography, candid wedding photography evolve. I would even go as far as to say you were there at its inception and how far it's come now. Now, I've noticed that sometimes there are some colors or there are some themes which are trending in the market. And when it's trending, so maybe one or two people do it, and then next 3 months later, a couple of others have done it. 6 months later, everybody's done it, and the next trend starts.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of that? Is trends, are they something you indulge in? Is that something you stay away from?
See, on the one hand, I'm very lazy. I've evolved a certain approach to shooting many years ago, and by and large, I've stuck to that. The look of my pictures, I've tweaked it a little bit just to my personal taste. It doesn't look like the trending photos at all. If you notice a lot of the celebrity weddings and all, the skin looks pink almost, right? And for me, I don't like that. Like I like a slightly film-like sort of vibe, but I don't like it when skin looks unnaturally like pink. See, those pictures are beautiful. Okay, it's a very aesthetic look, which the big names are doing now, and obviously people like that particular look, which is why it's popular. And but yeah, I don't. I mean, firstly, I can't be bothered to figure out how to get the skin to look pink because I'm like, why am I even doing that?
So, did you ever speak to the makeup artists?
No, so that's the thing. Yeah, sometimes I with the outfit and with
The stage and everything.
the stage and everything, the skin looks pink just because of the incident light. When everything around you is pink, the skin will also look
And
pink.
there's one thing, especially recently, at least in the past 10 years, as part of wedding decor, I've seen a lot of people use the colorful LED lights, which as a photographer, I absolutely despise.
Terrible.
Generally, I don't know why this is a thing, but I've noticed that they point them from down to up.
Yes, they are making everybody look like a ghost. See, firstly, the colorful LEDs are horrible, but even the neutral LEDs are all low CRI LEDs. Like there's just nobody has the color reproduction index of these cheap LEDs is very, very low, which means that skin just looks bad. Even if it's a neutral yellow LED, skin looks bad.
So how do you tackle it? Do you carry your own lights, or do you request that the people you're shooting move to a place with better light?
No, so if they ask me for advice, I tell them just avoid LEDs. Now, if I land up there, and what usually happens is I work alone, so often there's another video team or something. They might have their own halogen lamps with the umbrella and all that, and if that's good enough, it sort of overrides the LEDs. It's fine. Otherwise, I just flip over the LEDs, tip it over so that the LED light is not interfering with my picture. I mean, I have to do it. Otherwise, especially if there's a sort of pink LED at the back, like the front of the face will be fine, but the side of the cheeks will be pink. So
that's not a good look.
Yeah, it's just there, and it's
the color temperatures all the way up.
Either there's a limit to which you can fix that stuff, and it's and people don't know anything
using
about lighting.
These kind of lights.
Yeah, no, I
So when did you do your first outstation, or like when did you shoot abroad?
When did I shoot my first abroad? Yeah, I shot one in Sri Lanka. I think that was 2013 beginning. That was the first wedding I shot in Colombo. That was the first wedding I shot. So basically, back then everything was Facebook. I just put it out on Facebook saying, listen, and this is how I shoot abroad, is that I charge a flat fee.
Okay.
Which is usually competitive with the local photographer. And then I take care of my own travel and stay. And I don't end up making money on these foreign weddings. I get a trip out of it. I take my partner along. We go and make a holiday out of it. The last one I did was in Ireland in 2023.
Okay.
It was also my first queer wedding. So that was also great fun. And in between I've done UK, US, Australia. All of these I charge one flat rate. I land up there, shoot, and it's fun. It's fun to see. And
it's fun for sure.
In Australia was a Jewish wedding. It's the only time I've shot a Jewish wedding.
Wonderful.
So that was really
So
interesting.
what is your limit? Like what is a number of, say for example, if there's 50 people in a wedding, I personally would say, because I'm Indian, I would say it's a smaller wedding. And if there's probably 500 people, I think it's a normal wedding as far as Indian customs go. But do you have any preference? Do you prefer shooting smaller weddings, or the whole concept of bigger weddings? Is that something you're still open to?
I don't have a strong preference, only because my style focuses very much on the couple and whoever's interacting with the couple. So whether it's the larger gathering is 10, I think the smallest I've shot is 12. 12 is the smallest wedding I've shot. And the biggest was 10,000.
Okay,
so
well, that's you have everything.
That's a big range. Yeah. The 12 was really fun because that was truly immediate family. It was COVID times.
Okay. So 12 including you or excluding you?
No, excluding me. There was 12 plus me. But including the bride and groom. So,
wow.
So
it was just 10 people who are not the bride and the groom.
Absolute immediate family only. And it was at Santom Basilica here, and a lunch at Fisherman's Cove, and it was very nice and very chill. But like I said, so it's because I focus on the couple and what they are doing, and generally people
makes a difference, because when I came across your work, another thing I noticed is, as you said, even if it's a wedding with 10,000 people, generally what may happen is when you have more people at the wedding, suddenly, when you look at photos, of course, it doesn't feel that personal anymore. It looks like, oh, there's a lot of people. But when I've seen your work, and I've noticed that regardless of the number of people, again, I don't know how many people have actually attended, but from the pictures, it looks like a very intimate affair. It looks like somebody who's a part of the household has actually taken these images. And I think that's a very personal touch which you add to your offering.
Thank you. And that's actually what I aim to do. And that's another reason why I also very studiously avoid the candid photographer's favorite lens, which is the 70-200 f2.8.
Right lens.
Yeah. Which is so, for me, the thing is that perspective makes a picture. And if you are nearby, you're shooting at 35 or 50, you are near the in the picture. There is the intimacy of being close to the subject. Like you can see that. But and if you can make the same frame from 200 but you can see the distance in that frame. It look beautiful. The background will be beautifully out of focus. The features will be well defined. All of that, but that distance is visible in the picture.
For sure.
So why I prefer to stick with 35 and 50, and I use the 85 also when I want a little bit of reach more than anything else. But I mainly stick with the 35 and 50 because the intimacy is visible, and I want to be close to my subject. But I mean, without intruding, but I want to be close to the subject, and that's precisely what I try to convey in the picture.
No, I think it's coming out very well. Whatever you're trying to convey, it's working beautifully.
Thank you.